Alpha King Everett Thorn gave Cecily Rook's room to his chosen Luna, while Cecily was still awake inside it. 20 sleepless nights had left her pale beneath the silver wash of the 12 wakebound panes, her dark hair braided badly because her hands had started trembling at dawn. 3 cups of untouched tea sat cold on the narrow table. A border map lay open across her lap, marked with every raider shadow she had seen moving through the northern pines. No one looked at the map. They looked at the bed. Lady Vessa stood in the doorway with 6 attendants behind her, dressed in white ceremonial fur and moon pearls, her smile soft enough to pass for kindness before witnesses. "Cecily," Vessa said, "you must be exhausted. His Majesty has decided you need rest." The women behind her murmured approval. Rest. Cecily almost laughed. The word sounded obscene in the quiet room. The 12 wakebound panes covered the curved western wall, 12 tall sheets of old silver glass set deep into black stone. They did not show the courtyard outside. They showed Haydn's borders when moonlight touched them. Ravines, pine passes, frozen roads, wolf paths, old enemy trails. The Panes did not choose queens. They did not love Cecily. They opened only for a watcher who had stayed awake long enough for the border to borrow her eyes. For 20 nights, Cecily had sat before them while the pack slept, whispering every movement to the watch runners, and now Vessa wanted the room for flowers. Everett stood behind her in the hall. Not hidden. Worse. Present. His broad shoulders filled the doorway, his black coat clasped with the alpha crest, his expression carved into the familiar discipline that had made Haydn obey him even in famine winters. Cecily had once trusted that face. She had once believed his stillness meant control, not indifference. "Cecily," he said. Her name sounded like something he had already decided to move. She rose too fast, and the room tilted. One hand caught the back of the chair. Everett noticed. His jaw tightened. Vessa noticed too, and smiled more gently. "You see, she can hardly stand. This room has fed an unhealthy fixation. A future Luna cannot be blessed in a place haunted by another woman's vigil." Cecily looked at Everett. "Another woman?" The attendants went silent. Everett's eyes darkened. "Do not make this public. You brought witnesses to my room. I brought witnesses to avoid insult." "No," Cecily said. "You brought witnesses so my hurt would have to behave." Something moved behind his eyes. "Not enough." Vessa stepped forward, careful not to touch the border map. "The quiet room will be prepared for the lunar moonfast. I will spend the night here before the ceremony, as tradition requires. The pack needs a Luna who can be seen, Cecily, not one who hides behind glass and calls loneliness duty." The sentence landed exactly where it was meant to. Cecily felt it open something old inside her. The lunar moonfast required sleep before blessing. The wakebound panes required the opposite. Everett's gaze flicked to the glass, then back to Cecily. "You have refused sleep for 20 nights. I've kept watch for 20 nights. You stopped eating with the council because the Western Pass moved after midnight. You stopped attending morning court because morning was when I wrote what the Panes showed. You stopped answering me. That one was quieter. It should not have hurt more." Cecily looked at him, at the man who had once found her awake at 3 a.m, and wrapped his own cloak around her shoulders without asking why she was cold. The man who had stayed beside her until sunrise that first night, pretending he had come for border reports, when both of them knew he had come because he could not sleep either. "I answered every question you asked," she said. "You never asked what it cost." The 12 wakebound panes gave a faint, silver pulse. All 12 panes. The attendants gasped. Vessa turned toward the glass, but the glow had already softened, like a breath hidden behind teeth. Everett saw it. Cecily knew he saw it. Still, he chose the room. "The ceremony cannot be delayed," he said. "Haydn needs the Morn Alliance." He had moved the watcher before sending one rider to test what she had marked. "And I am the thing that can be moved to make space for it. You are not a thing. No, things are handled more carefully when they are useful." His face tightened. Enough. There it was. The word men used when truth became inconvenient in front of other people. Vessa lowered her voice. "Your Majesty, she is overtired. The pains respond to strain. If she remains, the lunar rite may be compromised." Cecily turned to the glass. The northern pane, the middle pane showed black ravine, still and blue. The lowest pane showed the Wolf Bridge, where 2 watchmen warmed their hands over a covered lantern. She had held all of it open for them. Her eyes burned so badly she could barely blink. Everett stepped into the room. "You will take the East Guest Chamber until the ceremony concludes. The East Chamber has no panes. It has a bed." Cecily smiled then. "Small, tired, unforgiving. Of course, that is the part you understand." He flinched as if she had touched him. Vessa's attendants began gathering Cecily's things. One lifted the border map by its edge, wrinkling the ink. Cecily moved before thought, snatching it back. Vessa's smile vanished for half a second, then returned, still guarding paper. "No," Cecily said, "guarding the places you will not recognize until they burn." Everett's voice lowered. "Cecily." She looked at him one last time from the center of the room that had taken 20 nights of her life and given the pack 20 mornings of safety. "May your Luna sleep well here," she said. Then she stepped past him. He reached once, not touching her, his hand stopping beside her sleeve. She did not turn. Behind her, Lady Vessa crossed the threshold of the quiet room. The 12 wakebound panes went black. Not dim, not clouded. Black. Every border vanished at once. Frostpine Road, Black Ravine, Wolf Bridge, the Northern Pines, the old enemy trails. Heidenpack Keep lost the night in a single breath. The watch bells began to ring below. Everett turned toward the panes. Vessa whispered, "What did she do?" Cecily stopped in the hall, one hand against the stone because her knees had nearly failed. In the dead black glass, where no one else could see anything, one thin silver line opened like an eye. Far beyond the border, raider torches moved through the trees. The wakebound panes had not crowned Cecily. They had only gone blind when the sleepless watcher was removed. That difference mattered, though no one in the corridor wanted to admit it. The watch bells rang below Heidenpack Keep, sharp and uneven, the sound of men realizing too late that darkness could be an event. Guards ran past the moonfast attendants. Somewhere in the lower yard, a wolf gave a warning howl, and another answered from the western wall. Everett stood in the doorway of the quiet room, staring at 12 black panes that had shown him borders all his reign and now showed nothing at all. Lady Vessa kept her hands folded before her white ceremonial fur. "Your Majesty, this proves the room was unstable before I entered." Cecily leaned one shoulder against the hall stone, because standing without it had become a negotiation with her own body. Everett turned toward her. "What did you see?" She laughed once, dry and small. "Now you ask?" His face tightened. Not apology. Not yet. Good. She did not want soft words placed over a wound still bleeding. Vessa stepped between them with practiced grace. "Cecily has gone 20 nights without proper sleep. Sleep deprivation distorts the mind, especially near old glass. The panes may be reacting to emotional strain, not threat." "The panes do not love me," Cecily said. "They remember what I have stayed awake to see." Vessa's smile thinned. "That is exactly the sort of attachment I warned you about, Majesty." Everett looked at the crumpled border map still in Cecily's hand. He had opened her room. He had not returned it. "Captain," he called. A watch captain appeared at the stair, breathless. "Alpha, send riders to Frostpine Road, Black Ravine, and Wolf Bridge. Now, no interpretation, no delay. Bring back ash, scent reports, lantern position, and runner marks." Vessa lowered her voice. "The lunar moonfast is older than Cecily's vigil. If you suspend the ceremony over one exhausted watcher's fear, House Morn will hear insult." Everett's eyes remained on the captain. House Morn can hear the watch bells first. The captain bowed and ran. Cecily felt the hallway tilt again. She gripped the map tighter. Everett saw her hand shaking. His own hand moved as if he meant to steady her. She stepped back before he could. "Do not touch me because the windows have begun proving what you refuse to ask." His hand stopped in the air. The attendants looked away. Vessa did not. "No one is proving anything. Raider shadows may be old reflections. Wakebound glass stores fear. It can show yesterday like tonight if the watcher has fed it panic." Cecily turned toward her. "Then let the riders prove me wrong." Vessa's expression warmed for the witnesses. "I hope they do, for all our sakes." Everett finally took the map from Cecily, but not by force. He held out his hand and waited until she released it. That did not heal anything. It only prevented him from making the same mistake twice in the same hour. He opened the map beneath the dead panes. 20 nights of markings crossed the parchment in silver ink and black charcoal. Runner times, pack scent notes, moon positions. places where enemy movement had appeared and vanished. His brow lowered. You recorded all of this? I wrote what the Panes showed before sleep could take it from me. You should have brought this to council. I did, she said. 3 mornings. Vessa called it fixation. You called it exhaustion. Silence cut deeper than the bells. Everett did not defend himself. That was something, but not enough to name. A runner came up the stairs first, snow melting on it. Vessa answered before Everett could. Raiders have crossed Frostpine before. That does not prove Cecily's map was accurate tonight. Cecily pointed to the corner of the parchment. 3rd mark. Narrow ash trail, west side, after midnight. Everett compared the mark. His offset. A second runner arrived with bloodless urgency. Black ravine. 2 wolf scent markers cut from the stone posts. Clean blade. Recent. The watch captain behind him added, Her map marks both posts. Vessa's voice stayed calm. Anyone who has studied old raids could guess those points. Cecily looked at Everett. You mistook exhaustion for weakness because you never counted what it protected. This time the words did not make him angry. They made him look older. A 3rd runner entered carrying a lantern with a cracked blue cover. Wolf Bridge lantern was moved after midnight, shifted downriver, facing the wrong bank. The bridge watch thought it was weather glare. Cecily closed her eyes. She had seen that lantern tilt in the lowest pane. She had written it while her vision blurred and her pulse stumbled in her ears. My map? Everett asked. The runner bowed. Matches the timestamp, Alpha. Vessa's hands tightened once in her fur. A pattern can still be made from coincidence. The Morn Alliance brings soldiers enough to guard all 3 points by dawn. One woman's sleeplessness is not a defense system. Cecily opened her eyes. Sleep did not heal the border. It blinded it. Everett looked from the black panes to the map, then to her. Cecily Rook is granted temporary border witness, standing until the 3 locations are verified by second report. A murmur ran through the hall. Temporary. Witness. Not restored. Not trusted fully. The room still belonged to Vessa pending ceremony. He had trusted her map enough to send riders, not enough to return the room that made the map possible. Cecily heard every limit in the words. Do not call me witness while your Luna sleeps in the place that kept the border awake, she said. Everett flinched. Vessa smiled gently again. Then perhaps the witness should rest before she harms herself further. Cecily looked past her to the black glass. One thin silver line opened only for Cecily, low in the 12th pane. It did not open because it loved her. It opened because the last wake debt in the room still belonged to her body. A runner's horn sounded from the west stair. The captain turned toward the noise, then came back with a strip of route paper in his hand. His face had changed. Alpha, he said. 1 escort from House Morn crossed the northern pines before the panes went black. The crossing did not name Vessa. It only proved the Alliance had moved inside the border before Haydn was allowed to see it. The route paper reached Everett's hand before anyone in the hall found the courage to breathe. Cecily understood the danger of it at once. Not guilt, not confession. A road, a time, a name entered under privilege while Haydn's border site was being taken apart. Lady Vessa Morn looked at the route paper, then lifted her chin with careful dignity. House Morn escorts move under Alliance privilege. That is not treason. It is protocol. Everett held out his hand. Give me the route law. The captain obeyed. Cecily stayed beside the wall, her body thin with exhaustion, her mind painfully awake. The 12 wakebound panes behind them remained black, except for the one silver line only her tired eyes could hold. It was not devotion. It was debt. The room still remembered the body that had paid to keep it awake. Vessa's attendants gathered closer around the white fur train of her moonfast gown. The gesture made her look protected, innocent, almost wounded. Almost. The escort may have carried ceremonial documents, Vessa said. My household sent several ahead for the lunar rite. Blessing lists, guest seals, moonfast instructions. You cannot treat Alliance movement as border breach because Cecily is frightened. Cecily did not look at her. She looked at Everett. Open the route log. His eyes met hers. For one moment, the old pull between them returned, cruel because it knew the shape of tenderness, and still could not become it. He had once listened when she spoke of weather changes, wolf paths, odd smoke beyond the pines. He had once trusted her before court voices taught him to call her vigilance strain. Now he was trusting her map. Not enough. The quiet room still belonged to Vessa. Everett turned to the captain. "Seal Cecily's 20-night map. No one copies, folds, stains, or removes it without my mark and hers." Vessa's lips parted. "Majesty," then open the Morn route logs. The command moved through the hall like cold air. Cecily's throat tightened. He had protected the map. He had not protected the woman who made it. A king could send riders and still leave the watcher he used without a door. The captain returned with a route ledger, a gate strip, and a small box of pass tokens. The route master came behind him in a nightrobe belted badly over his tunic, his face gray with interrupted sleep. Everett opened the ledger on the table where Cecily's cold tea still sat. "Identify the escort," he said. The route master swallowed. "Morn escort, registered as Torhalven, entered under alliance privilege." Vessa nodded softly. "There, legal passage." Cecily stepped closer, though the floor seemed to breathe beneath her. "Which trail?" The route master looked at the page, then looked again. Everett's voice sharpened. "Answer her." "North Pine Service Trail." The captain frowned. "That trail was closed after last winter's sinkfall." Vessa answered smoothly. "Ceremonial escorts are often redirected. Snow changes roads." "Snow does not reopen a closed border trail," Cecily said. Everett looked at the pass token. "When was it issued?" The route master checked the box records. "Second bell after moonrise." Cecily looked toward the black panes. "Second bell after moonrise." Before Vessa entered. Before Everett removed her. Before Haydn lost the border. Everett heard the timing land. His fingers tightened around the token. Vessa spoke gently. "Issued before the disturbance, yes. Which proves the crossing had nothing to do with the Panes going dark." "No," Cecily said. "It proves the escort was already moving where the Panes have been trying to show me." Vessa's eyes cooled. "Or that your exhausted mind tied unrelated things together." Cecily turned on her then. "My sleeplessness did not invent your escort's boot marks." The room went still. Everett looked to the captain. "Gate mark." The captain handed over a strip of dark leather stamped with pine resin and moon silver dust. "Closed trail gate. Opened once. Marked by pass token. Not patrol key." "Time?" "Between second and third bell." Cecily pointed to a map. "Wolf Bridge lantern moved after midnight. If he came through the closed pine trail, he could reach the bridge bend before third bell." The captain checked the rider report. His mouth tightened. "The lantern shift matches that passage." Vessa's voice remained calm, but thinner now. "An escort carrying moonfast documents could have lost his way. Raiders may have followed without his knowledge. House Morn brings soldiers to protect Haydn, not blind it." Everett looked at her. "Where is Torhalven now?" No one answered quickly enough. Cecily heard the delay and hated how familiar it felt. Men lost truth in silences and called the gap procedure. The captain turned to a guard. "Find him." "He is already in the East Court," the guard said, "held after the watch bells." Everett did not look at Cecily when he spoke, as if he knew looking might feel like asking forgiveness. "Cecily Rook's temporary border. Witness standing is extended to route records, pass tokens, and gate marks until second verification." Temporary. Still temporary. Vessa's room remained untouched. He had widened the use of her sight. He had not returned the room that made sight possible. Cecily gave him a tired smile without warmth. "You needed my eyes after taking the place where they could see." His face changed. He said nothing. "Good." Silence was better than a false apology. They brought the escort in with pine mud on his boots and frost in the hem of his cloak. He bowed to Vessa, first out of habit. Everett saw it. So did everyone else. The escort corrected himself too late and bowed to the Alpha. "Majesty, I carried ceremonial moonfast documents under House Morn authority." "Pouch," Everett said. The escort touched his side. His hand froze. One leather document pouch hung there, flat and empty. The second strap had been cut. Vessa exhaled delicately. "Raiders steal documents. That may be all this is." Cecily looked at the cut strap, then at the map sealed under Everett's hand. "Not all documents are worth stealing." The captain searched the escort's cloak, boots, belt, and inner lining. Nothing. Then a runner from Wolf Bridge arrived, carrying a mud-dark pouch wrapped in torn white ribbon. "Found below the moved lantern," he said, "hidden under the bridge stones." Everett opened it. Inside was not a blessing list, not a guest seal, not moon-fast instructions. It was a copied map of Cecily's 20-night border marks. Not copied from the parchment Everett had just sealed, copied from the council intake sheets she had brought 3 mornings earlier, the ones dismissed as exhaustion before anyone checked the trails. The map did not accuse the Luna. It accused access. By the time the council clerks reached the quiet room, the stolen copy had already changed the air. Not into a verdict, into a question no one powerful wanted answered. Who had touched Cecily's warnings before Hayden believed her? Everett placed the copied map beside Cecily's sealed original. The difference should have been obvious. Her original carried 20 nights of tired handwriting, pressure marks where her hand had shaken, small corrections where she had fought sleep and rewritten a trail before dawn. The copy was cleaner. Too clean. Lady Vessa stood near the dead Wakebound Panes, still wrapped in white ceremonial fur, her expression composed for everyone watching. Council intake sheets passed through several hands, Majesty. Clerks, runners, copyists, security scribes. A copied map proves handling, not conspiracy. Cecily rested one hand on the table to keep herself upright. Handling becomes dangerous when the map ends under a moved bridge lantern. Vessa's mouth softened. Or when raiders steal a pouch from an escort carrying legitimate security concerns. Everett looked toward Torhalven. The Morn escort stood with pine mud drying on his boots, the cut pouch strap laid before him like a small accusation. "What were you ordered to carry?" Everett asked. Tor swallowed. "Ceremonial moonfast documents, Alpha. Guest seals, blessing lists, and a sealed caution extract for Morn commanders." "Who gave you the pouches?" "The Morn dispatch steward." Vessa nodded at once. "My steward prepares all ceremonial packets. I do not inspect every ribbon tied in my name." Cecily looked at the white ribbon around the recovered pouch, then opened the dispatch list. Everett's eyes shifted to her. There it was again. The pull, the guilt, the impulse to reach for her and make one private gesture stand in for public repair. He did not touch her. Good. A touch would have been easier than truth. "Bring House Morn's dispatch list," he said, "and the council intake custody ledger for Cecily Rook's submissions." Vessa lifted her chin. "Your Majesty, the ceremony is being turned into an interrogation." "No," Cecily said. "The interrogation began when my map reached a closed trail, before my Alpha reached belief." The words struck Everett hard enough to silence him. A king could seal a map and still leave its maker without a door. The quiet room remained assigned to Vessa. The Wakebound Panes remained black. Cecily remained temporary. The clerks opened the council intake ledger first. 3 mornings earlier, Cecily had submitted 7 sheets: Frostpine movement, Black Ravine scent cuts, Wolf Bridge lantern irregularity, North Pine trail risk, Raider torch ash, runner delay marks, and border timing summary. The official council minutes had recorded only 3. Everett's voice went low. "Where are the missing 4? The intake clerk paled. "They were marked for private security review." "By whom?" The clerk looked toward Vessa, then immediately down. Vessa sighed as if disappointed by the room's suspicion. "Private preparation councils often receive border summaries before alliance rights. Hayden invited House Morn to help defend these roads. Sharing caution extracts would be appropriate." Cecily's tired eyes sharpened. "Summaries." Vessa turned to her. "Yes." Cecily tapped the recovered copy. "This is not a summary." The room went still. Everett looked again. She was right. The copied map included her side marks, not just locations. The tiny crescent beside the Wolfbridge lantern, the double scratch near the closed pine trail, the smudged warning at Black Ravine where she had written "scent markers cut before 3rd bell," then crossed out before final intake because the council had refused a full hearing. None of those appeared in the official minutes. Everett's jaw hardened. Who had access to the full intake sheets? The clerk whispered, "Council intake, Alpha security, and private preparation council for the lunar ceremony." Vessa's voice stayed smooth. "A preparation council contains many people. Names," Everett said. Her gaze cooled slightly. "My steward, 2 Morn scribes, Hayden's ritual master, and 3 attendants assigned to the moonfast chamber." Cecily looked toward the dead Panes. "The chamber you took before reading what kept it awake." No one answered. The Morn dispatch list arrived in a narrow ivory folder. Vessa's steward was not with it. A guard reported he could not be found. Vessa closed her eyes briefly. "Then he has made himself look guilty by fear." "Fear of what?" Cecily asked. of being blamed by an exhausted witness and a frightened Hall. Everett opened the dispatch list. 2 pouches were entered under Tor Halvan's name: moonfast root prayers, northern caution extracts. The first pouch, still on Tor's belt, contained prayers and seals. The second, found under Wolf Bridge, held Cecily's full marks. Everett laid the cut strap beside the white ribbon. Why was a full border map tied as a caution extract? Tor shook his head. I do not know, Alpha. I was told to carry it through the North Pine service trail and wait near Wolf Bridge for a second escort. A second escort? Vessa asked, and this time her surprise was almost perfect. Almost. Cecily heard the shape of it. Do not call it ceremony paper when it taught an escort where the border would go blind. Vessa turned to her, gentle for the witnesses. You want this to be personal because being overlooked hurt you. Cecily's hand tightened on the table. My body broke before the glass did, and still you needed a stolen copy before you called it evidence. Everett looked at her then, fully. Pane crossed his face, but he kept it quiet, as if he finally understood that his pain had no right to take space from hers. He turned to the captain. Cecily Rook's temporary border witness standing extends to map custody, council intake, and dispatch records. Temporary again, but wider. Still not enough. The captain bent over the copied map, comparing the ink to the dispatch list. Alpha. Everett stepped closer. There is a correction here, the captain said, at the Wolf Bridge lantern mark. Cecily leaned in. The copied map had one small alteration she had not written, a neat correction beside the lantern symbol, changing its angle toward the downriver bank. The ink matched a note on the dispatch list margin. The captain lifted both pages into the moonlight. Same hand, he said. Vessa went very still. Everett did not look away from the handwriting. At the edge of the dispatch list, beside the moonfast root prayers, the same elegant hand had signed one small approval. Vessa Morn. No one spoke for 3 heartbeats. The ink had done what Vessa's face refused to do. It had stepped out from behind ceremony and left itself under moonlight. Everett held the dispatch list in one hand and the copied map in the other. The same elegant correction marked both pages. Same slant, same pressure, same careful turn at the end of the line. Lady Vessa Morn recovered first. Majesty, she said softly, I signed approval for moonfast dispatch. I did not draw Raider roads. Cecily stood beside the table, cold from exhaustion and too awake to shake apart. No one said Raider roads. Vessa looked at her. You implied it. I said access. The word moved through the room again. Quieter this time, more dangerous for having survived. Everett looked toward the dead wakebound panes. 12 black surfaces gave back nothing. No border, no moonlit road, no mercy. Who requested this room for the moonfast? He asked. Vessa's expression shifted into wounded dignity. I did, according to tradition. A chosen Luna spends the night before blessing in the quietest chamber of the keep. Cecily's laugh was almost soundless. Quietest. Everett turned to her. She did not soften. It was quiet because I stopped screaming every time the border took more sleep than I had left. His face changed. Not enough to repair. Enough to show the sentence had entered him. Vessa stepped nearer. Cecily speaks as if she alone has served Haydn. House Morn brings 200 riders, winter stores, and border gold. One exhausted woman's pain cannot outweigh an alliance. No, Cecily said, but one ignored map can tell you where that alliance walked. A guard lowered his eyes. Everett placed both documents flat on the table. Seal the quiet room. Vessa's head lifted. Majesty. No moonfast. No attendance. No private entry. The room becomes border evidence until inquiry is complete. A sharp ripple passed through Vessa's attendants. Cecily felt it, then hated herself for feeling anything close to relief. The room was not returned. It was sealed. There was a difference. Everett knew it too, because he did not look at her when he gave the order. Vessa's voice stayed level. Suspending the moonfast publicly insults House Morn. Everett's answer was colder than the glass. So does finding their dispatch mark beside a stolen border map. I did not steal it. Then you will help prove who did. Her smile thinned. Gladly. Cecily watched him. A king can seal a room and still leave its watcher outside the door. Everett's hand closed once on the table edge. You are not outside the inquiry. I was outside belief. Silence followed that. This time, he did not defend himself. The captain brought the private preparation ledger, a narrow book bound in pale leather and scented faintly with lavender oil. It did not belong in a border investigation. It belonged beside flower lists, seating charts, robe fittings, and ceremonial prayers. That was what made it ugly. Everett opened it. Read the attendance for the preparation council. The ritual master cleared his throat. Lady Vessa Morn, Steward Cowran, 2 Morn scribes, 3 moonfast attendants, myself, 1 Haydn council runner. Was Cecily Rook present? No. Alpha. Were her intake sheets present? The ritual master hesitated. Cecily did not need the answer to feel it. Her body knew the shape of being discussed outside a room. Everett's voice sharpened. Were her intake sheets present? Yes, Alpha, as Northern caution material. Vessa folded her hands. Because her concerns were being taken seriously enough to share with allied defenders. Cecily looked at her. Seriously enough to copy, not seriously enough to hear. Vessa met her gaze with perfect calm. You were unwell. We were trying to protect the ceremony from panic. My body broke before the glass did, Cecily said. And still, you needed a stolen copy before you called it evidence. Everett looked down at the ledger. The words had struck him. She could see it in the stillness of his shoulders. He turned a page, then another. His thumb stopped near a small notation written beside the moonfast chamber assignment. Read this, he said. The ritual master leaned over and paled. Quiet room requested after review of Northern Caution extracts. When? Everett asked. 3rd morning, after Cecily Rook's final intake submission. Cecily closed her eyes once. There it was. Not a confession. Not enough to hang a traitor. Enough to prove the order of cruelty. Her warnings entered the preparation council first. Then her room was taken. Vessa spoke before the room could turn against her. That proves caution, not malice. If the Panes were straining her, moving her was mercy. Cecily opened her eyes. Rest is not mercy when it is ordered, after the danger has been ignored. Everett looked at her then. Not as Alpha. Not as judge. As the man who had once seen her awake and mistook endurance for availability. You saw my trembling hands, she said, voice lower now, and called it weakness. You never asked what they had held open. He swallowed. The whole room saw it. That was the first cost. Everett turned to the captain. House Morn's dispatch authority inside Haydn is suspended. All escort tokens recalled. All preparation council records sealed under Alpha Guard. Vessa's eyes flashed. You risk the alliance over implication. I risked Haydn over ceremony. The words landed harder because he did not dress them. Cecily looked away first. Not because she was moved. Because part of her was, and she did not forgive that part. The captain bowed. And the quiet room, Alpha? Everett's jaw worked once. It remains sealed. No one enters until Cecily Rook confirms what the Panes require. Temporary again. Still not authority. But no longer erasure. The Wakebound Panes gave one faint pulse behind them. Not approval. Not love. A tired system recognizing that someone had finally stopped removing the only body that could answer it. The ritual master turned one more page in the preparation ledger and froze. Alpha, he whispered. Everett stepped beside him. Cecily did not move until his silence became too heavy. What now? She asked. The ritual master lifted the ledger toward the dead glass. A final notation brightened under the moon. Quiet room reassignment requested 1 hour after Cecily Rook's full border intake was opened. The old room did not need to shout. It simply held the last line in silver ink until every person inside understood what it meant. Border site cannot reopen while Watcher remains without recognized authority. Cecily looked at the words until they blurred. Not because she was crying. Because 20 sleepless nights had made even truth hard to see. Everett stood beside the wake-dead book, his hand still resting on the cover. Recognized authority can be granted. Vessa turned at once, relief hidden beneath concern. Then grant it, Majesty. Let Cecily serve under temporary command until the Panes settle. Haydn needs sight more than it needs ceremony pride. Cecily laughed. Everyone looked at her. The sound was not warm. Now you need me awake. Vessa's face softened for the witnesses. We need Haydn protected. No, Cecily said. You need the woman you called unstable to stand in the room you dressed for another woman's sleep. Everett's jaw tightened. Cecily. Do not say my name like it is a bridge. The quiet room went still. The 12 wakebound panes remained black, veined with silver frost near her shadow, and nowhere else. Master Oren lowered his eyes. The captain looked toward the floor. Even Vessa's attendants, dressed in white for a ceremony that no longer felt holy, shifted uneasily. Everett spoke carefully. What authority does the old law require? Cecily answered before Oren could. Active watcher, border captain, council of watchwomen. Haydn has no council, because men kept calling women's watchwork instinct, worry, a nervous habit, until there was nothing left to name. Vessa stepped forward. That is a political argument, not a solution. Raiders may already be moving through the northern pines. Cecily turned to her. They were moving while you measured flowers for my bed. The words struck too close. Vessa's eyes cooled. If you refuse to help, the pack will know what your pride costs. Everett's voice cut across hers. Enough. Cecily did not thank him. A man did not deserve gratitude for stopping a blade after handing it to someone else. She pushed herself away from the table. Her knees threatened to fold. She held them by will, the way she had held her eyes open through 20 nights of border dark. I am leaving this room, she said. Everett stepped toward her, then stopped before touching. The Panes need you here. No, the Panes need what Haydn refused to give me. Authority, witness, law, not my body collapsing in a chair, while everyone calls it devotion after calling it illness. His face changed. That hurt worse than his coldness. She wished guilt did not look so much like the man she had once loved. Vessa spoke softly. If she leaves now, she chooses herself over the border. Cecily looked back at the black panes. I chose the border for 20 nights. Haydn chose not to believe the cost. Outside, another watch horn sounded. Farther this time, not from the western wall. From the north ravine approach. The captain went rigid. Second horn. Everett turned. Report. A runner appeared in the doorway, breath white in the cold. Alpha. The north ravine markers are gone. Not cut. Removed. The patrol wolves lost scent beyond the old cedar break. Vessa seized the moment. House Morn riders can reinforce that path by dawn if the Alliance is not publicly shamed. Cecily stared at her. Your escort used a closed trail before the Panes went blind. And raiders may have followed him, Vessa said, which makes my riders necessary. Convenient, Cecily said. Practical. Dangerous things often are. Everett looked between them, then to the black glass. Captain, double the ravine patrol. No Morn rider moves without Haydn escort. No ceremony guest leaves the keep. Vessa's expression sharpened. You would confine my household? I would stop treating Alliance privilege as a second border. That was a real action. Still not enough. Cecily walked toward the doorway. Everett moved aside. The space he gave her was careful, almost reverent, and she hated that part of her noticed. As she crossed the threshold, the silver frost on the panes pulled toward her, like thread. The room darkened further. All 12 panes lost even their thin veins of light. A gasp moved through the attendants. Master Oren whispered, The wake debt is leaving the chamber. Cecily stopped in the hall but did not turn back. No, the unpaid watcher is. Everett followed her into the corridor. Not close, not claiming, just near enough that the guards parted because an alpha still made space wherever he breathed. Where will you go? He asked. The east guest chamber, the windowless one. You said it had a bed. His throat moved. There it was again, guilt trying to become tenderness and failing because she would not let it. Cecily, he said quietly, if you sleep before the debt is acknowledged, I may not wake the Panes. You may not wake safely. She looked at him then. The corridor torches trembled in the draught. Behind him, the quiet room that had been taken from her stood open and blind. You wanted me rested after taking the only room where my sleeplessness mattered, she said. Do not turn fear for me into another command. He absorbed it without answer. Good. She was tired of answers that arrived after injury. Another horn sounded below. Then another. 3 directions. Frostbine, ravine, bridge. The pack was learning what a blind border cost. Cecily walked away before anyone could make her sacrifice feel like obligation again. Behind her, the 12 wakebound panes remained black. But in the wake debt book, a new silver line wrote itself beneath the old one. Watcher has withdrawn consent. The east guest chamber had exactly what Everett had promised. Ebil. 4 walls. No way to see the border. Cecily sat on the edge of it without lying down, because her body wanted sleep so badly it frightened her. If she closed her eyes, she did not know whether the Wakebound Panes would stay blind forever, or whether some part of her would keep watching until there was nothing left to wake. Outside the door, Haydn moved like a wounded animal. Boots on stone, watch horns, orders, wolves snarling in the yard. Then Everett's voice carried from the hall. "Do not enter her chamber," a guard answered. "Alpha? Not for command, not for witness, not for comfort." She withdrew consent. "We will not take it back by fear." Cecily stared at the closed door. The words did not heal her, but they did not steal from her either. That was new. In the council hall below, Everett gathered the pack before the black morning finished turning grey. Guards, runners, clerks, ritual masters, border captains, moonfast attendants, Vessa's household, and every woman who had ever served a night watch under a softer title: hearth listener, runner wife, scent keeper, lamp aunt, storm caller. Women whose work had been called worry until danger proved them useful. Lady Vessa stood near the alpha dais, without her ceremonial train now, dressed in pale blue instead of white, her expression calm enough to make accusation look impolite. Everett placed Cecily's sealed map on the central stone. Beside it, he laid the stolen copy, the route log, the pass token, the gate mark, the dispatch list, and the preparation ledger. No one touched them. "This inquiry is public," he said. Vessa lifted her chin. "Public inquiry before a lunar ceremony will damage the alliance beyond repair." Everett looked at her. Then the alliance should have been strong enough to survive records. A murmur moved through the hall. Vessa's eyes cooled, but her voice stayed soft. "You are letting exhaustion govern the pack." "No," Everett said. "I let ceremony govern the border. That ends now." The words landed hard. Not an apology. A responsibility. Cecily heard them from the corridor outside the hall. She had come because sleep had not taken her, because horns still sounded, because her name was being used below and she would not let anyone carry it without her. Everett saw her. He did not call her forward. He only stepped aside so the room could see she had arrived by choice. That too was new. The ritual master opened the council minutes. Cecily Rook submitted 7 border sheets over 3 mornings. 3 were entered into official minutes. 4 were removed for private preparation review. Everett turned to the intake clerk. "Who ordered the removal?" The clerk's hands shook. The request came from the lunar preparation table. Vessa answered smoothly. "For security summary, not removal." Cecily's voice came from the hall entrance. "If it was summary, why did your copy include marks never entered into council minutes?" The room turned. Everett did not. He kept his eyes on the clerk, forcing the answer into public record. The clerk swallowed. Only those with full intake access could copy them. Vessa sighed. "Access is not guilt." "No," Cecily said. But ignored access became a road. Everett looked to Captain Mayor. House Morn Dispatch Authority remains suspended. Vessa Morn is removed from private control of the quiet room, moonfast records, and border security packets until this inquiry closes. Vessa's composure cracked only at the edges. "You would strip your chosen Luna in front of servants." Everett's voice lowered. "I stripped Haydn's watcher in front of attendants. The hall can survive your inconvenience." Silence. Cecily felt those words in a place she did not want to open. He had named it. Publicly. Still, naming a wound was not the same as closing it. Vessa turned toward the crowd with wounded grace. "Ask yourselves what happens if every exhausted watcher can veto lunar law. Ask whether Haydn wants ancient glass, sleepless women, and panic to outrank Alliance soldiers." A few elders shifted. Fear still liked her language. Cecily stepped into the hall. "Then ask the women who kept watch before anyone named it law." An old lamp keeper raised her head. A runner's widow near the back straightened. A scent keeper with silver in her braid looked at Everett, as if daring him to look away. He did not. "By alpha order," Everett said, "every woman who has served border watch, signal watch, scent watch, lamp watch, or emergency runner record will be named and heard before the Wakebound law is rewritten." Vessa's face sharpened. "Rewritten by whom?" Everett looked at Cecily then. Not asking forgiveness. Asking the right question too late. Not by me alone. The wakebound panes, far above them in the sealed quiet room, gave a low sound that carried through stone. Cecily felt it in her bones. A tired knock from a blind defense system that had heard the first true shape of repair. Captain Mare entered with a fresh report, face grim. Alpha, raider movement, confirmed beyond the old cedar break. They are using the copied marks to avoid patrol routes. The hole erupted. Everett lifted one hand and silenced it. Then we stopped chasing after stolen sight. He turned to Cecily, keeping the space between them. What do the Panes require before you choose to help? Every eye moved to her. Cecily stood in the doorway, exhausted, unclaimed, and finally asked instead of used. She looked at the women in the hall, then at the sealed map, then at Everett. Not me, she said. Us. The old lamp keeper began to cry without making a sound. Cecily's voice did not shake. Call the watchwomen by name. Give them authority before you ask my body to pay another debt. From the upper keep, the 12 wakebound panes struck once like silver glass, remembering dawn. The first names came from women who had never been invited to stand on council stone. Mara Vale, lamp keeper for the west wall. Sellercroft, scent marker widow. Old Brenner Pike, stomp caller of Fruspine Road. Nell of the Bridge Lanterns. Tamsa Greer, runner, record keeper, who had buried 2 sons and still knew every patrol bell by sound. One by one, they stepped forward. Not dressed for ceremony, not polished for court. Women with cracked hands, tired eyes, grey braids, patched sleeves, and the quiet anger of people who had worked too long without being called necessary. Cecily stood among them, not above them. That mattered. Lady Vessa watched from below the alpha dais, with careful disgust hidden beneath concern. Majesty, this is no time to invent a council from grief and panic. Cecily looked at her. No. This is the time to name the work you used while pretending it was not authority. A murmur crossed the hall. Everett stood beside the central stone, the sealed records before him. He had not approached Cecily since she entered. He had not asked if she could stand. He had not offered his arm. Every restraint cost him something visible now, but he kept it. Good. Let him learn that not taking was also action. Captain Mare read the old wakebound law aloud. Wake debt may be acknowledged by active watcher, border captain, and council of watchwomen. Vessa gave a soft, wounded laugh. There has been no such council in Hyden for generations. Old Brenner Pike lifted her chin. There has been no such name. The work stayed. The hall went still. Everett turned to the scribe. Write it. The scribe bent over fresh parchment. By alpha order, Everett said, voice carrying to the far doors. Hyden recognizes the Council of Watchwomen as lawful border authority. No lunar rite, alliance ceremony, household privilege, or council preparation may displace active border watch without their written consent. Vessa's eyes flashed. You cannot place old women and exhausted watchers above lunar law. Cecily answered before Everett could. We are not above the law. We are the part of it men kept using without recording. The old lampkeeper began to cry openly then. Not weakly, like a woman hearing her life returned in public language. The scribe wrote every word. Everett signed. Captain Mare signed. Then he carried the quill to Cecily. Every eye followed it. Cecily did not take it at once. She looked at the quiet room doors above the hall, sealed under guard. The room had been taken from her, as if her sleeplessness were an inconvenience. Now the pack waited for her to spend what little strength remained, saving them from the blindness they had chosen. Everett's voice was low. You do not have to pay another debt alone. She looked back at him. I know. The answer struck him harder than accusation. Cecily took the quill and turned to the women beside her. Not my signature first. Vessa's mouth tightened. Everett did not interfere. One by one, the watchwomen signed. Some wrote names, some marked crosses, some pressed thumbprints in soot and moon water, because letters had never been offered to them along with duty. Only after the last woman had marked the parchment did Cecily write her name. Cecily Rook, active wakebound watcher. The 12 wakebound panes answered from above with a low, silver hum that made dust fall from the beams. Not because they loved her, not because they chose her, because the debt finally had witnesses. Captain Mare bowed to the women. Council, what is your order? The question moved through the hall like a blade cutting old cloth. Cecily felt every tired heart around her lift. She spoke for them only after Brenner nodded. Return the quiet room to border watch. Remove ceremony objects. Seal all Morn dispatch privileges. Send riders by routes not marked on the stolen copy. And no one wakes the Panes until the council stands inside with me. Vessa's voice sharpened. Delaying sight now endangers the pack. Cecily turned. You did not worry about danger when you asked to sleep where the border stayed awake. I asked for tradition. You asked for a room after reading the map. Vessa went very still. Not enough to confess. Enough for everyone to feel the sentence touch bone. Everett ordered the quiet room cleared. White furs, moon pearls, blessing bowls, ceremonial candles, folded veils, sleeping herbs, and Vessa's silver combs were carried out before the entire hall. No one laughed. That made it stronger. It was not humiliation for sport. It was removal of a lie. When the doors opened, cold air rolled down the stairs. Cecily climbed with the watchwomen beside her. Everett followed behind them. Behind, not leading. The quiet room looked larger without the ceremony inside. The 12 wakebound panes remained black, but the frost on them had changed. It no longer reached only for Cecily's shadow. It spread toward the women entering with her. Mara Vale whispered, All these years, I thought the room did not know us. Cecily touched the table where her map had been. It knew. Haydn did not. Everett stopped at the threshold. Cecily noticed. You may enter as alpha witness, not as owner. He bowed his head once. Understood. That word, from him, in front of them, mattered more than any apology would have. Cecily sat before the center pane. The other women stood behind her, hands on the chair, the table, the wall, the old stone. Authority made a circle around exhaustion. Cecily closed her eyes for one breath, then opened them. The panes brightened. Not fully. Enough. The border came back in fragments. Frost pine smoke, black ravine emptiness, wolf bridge stones, the closed pine trail, raider torches splitting into 3 lines. Then the 12th pane sharpened. It did not show raiders. It showed a moonfast horn wrapped in white ribbon, hidden beneath the bridge arch, waiting to be blown from inside Haydn. Beside it lay Vessa's silver comb. The watchwomen saw the danger before the men understood it. Not because they were magical, because they had spent their lives noticing what others dismissed. A lantern turned the wrong way, a ribbon tied too tight, a horn placed where no ceremony needed sound. Maravale pointed to the 12th pane. That horn is inside the bridge arch. Captain Mayor went rigid. If blown from there, the west patrols would answer inward. And leave Frostpine open, Cecily said. Everett turned toward the guards at the door. Secure Wolf Bridge. Quietly. No Morn escort moves. No guest leaves the keep. Lady Vessa Morn's voice rose from the stairs below, still calm, still carrying enough grace to make panic look vulgar. Majesty, you are surrounding Alliance guests during a raider threat. That will be remembered. Everett descended first. Cecily followed with the watchwomen. Not behind him. Beside the council she had named. The great hall was full by then. Guards, elders, Morn attendants, border runners, servants, and wolves crowding the lower arches with hackles raised. The sealed records lay on the central stone where everyone could see them. Vessa stood in pale blue beneath the alpha banners, beautiful enough to make suspicion seem cruel. Everett faced her. The wakebound panes showed a moonfast horn hidden at Wolf Bridge. Vessa's expression softened. Then someone has framed me very cleverly. No one said you hid it, Cecily said. Vessa looked at her. Cecily held the look. Not yet. A murmur moved through the hall. Captain Mayor returned, with the horn wrapped in white ribbon, Vessa's silver comb, and a bridge patrol ledger stained with damp. He placed them beside the dispatch list, the copied map, and the preparation council record. Everett did not touch the evidence first. He looked to Cecily. Council of Watchwomen, proceed. The words changed the hall. Not lover to beloved. Not alpha to woman. Authority to authority. Cecily stepped forward. Read the bridge ledger. The patrol clerk opened it, hands shaking. Wolf Bridge lantern shifted after midnight. Patrol redirected toward inner arch by ceremonial horn call. There was no horn call, Vessa said. Mara Vale answered. Not yet. That is why it was waiting. Cecily pointed to the dispatch list. Read the note, beside the copied bridge mark. The clerk swallowed. Lantern angle corrected downriver. Inner response path preferred. Whose hand? The captain compared it to the moonfast approval, the dispatch margin, and the small correction on Cecily's copied map. Same hand, he said. Vessa lifted her chin. I approved ceremonial routing. A Luna must know where guests, escorts, and ritual objects are placed. That is not conspiracy. No, Cecily said. But your correction moved the lantern toward the same arch where the false horn was hidden. Everett looked at Captain Mare. The second escort? Taken near the bridge, Alpha. He carried no weapon, only a signal strip tied in white. What signal? The captain laid it open. 3 short calls. 1 long. The bridge patrol pattern for emergency recall. Cecily felt the hall understand before anyone said it. The horn would have called Haydn's own guards away from the real breach. The stolen map had shown where to leave the border thin. Vessa's calm finally sharpened. You cannot condemn a lunar candidate with ribbons and old women's fear. Old Brenner Pike laughed once. Child, old women's fear is how half of you lived through winter. The hall stirred. Everett stepped down from the dais and stood before everyone. I chose Alliance Optics over the woman holding the border. The words fell harder than any accusation. Cecily went still. He did not look at her for comfort. I moved Cecily Rook from the room that made her sacrifice useful. I accepted her exhaustion as weakness. I let witnesses shame her while I called it courtesy. Haydn nearly lost its border because I valued ceremony before proof. No one breathed loudly. Then Everett turned to Vessa. Lady Vessa Morn, you are removed from lunar consideration. Your household is confined under guard pending full inquiry into dispatch records, route privileges, and radar contact. Vessa's face whitened. You will lose House Morn. Cecily spoke before Everett could. Then Haydn will lose the house that needed us blind. The 12 wakebound panes answered from above. All 12. Silver light poured down through the hall's open stairwell. Not soft now, not pleading. The panes showed Wolf Bridge, Frost Pine, Black Ravine, and the northern pines in living fragments across the stone floor. At Wolf Bridge, guards dragged 3 raiders from beneath the arch. At Frost Pine, Haydn wolves cut off the torchline before it reached the road. At Black Ravine, patrols reset the scent markers exactly where Cecily had marked them 20 nights before. The hall watched survival happen because her sleeplessness had been believed in time. Everett turned to the scribe. Enter Wakebound defense law. The scribe bent at once. No ceremonial rite. Lunar, moonfast, alliance, privilege, or household claim may displace an active border watcher. The quiet room belongs first to border sight. The Council of Watchwomen holds standing authority over wake debt, watch records, and Pane access. He signed. Captain Mare signed. The Watchwomen signed. Then Cecily signed last. Not because she mattered least, because the law no longer rested on her body alone. Everett took the quiet room key from the ritual master and held it out on his open palm. He did not step closer. This was returned by law before I dared offer it by hand, he said. Cecily looked at the key, then at him. You understand the difference now? I am beginning to. Beginning is not enough. No, Everett said, but it is where repair starts, if you allow me to keep doing it without reward. That was the first honest thing that did not ask anything from her. Cecily took the key. The panes brightened until the entire hall shone silver. No one knelt. No one needed to. Recognition was stronger standing. Later, after the raiders were bound, after Vessa was led away with her silence still intact, and her record speaking louder than confession, Cecily returned to the quiet room. The bed had been removed. The flowers were gone. Her map table stood beneath the panes, cleaned, restored, waiting. Everett stopped at the threshold. May I enter? Cecily looked at him for a long moment. The man who had taken her room was not gone, but the Alpha who had rewritten law before asking for her heart stood in his place, wounded by his own accountability and still there. Yes, she said, as witness. He accepted that. Inside, the 12 wakebound panes opened to the border, wide and clear. Cecily sat in the watcher's chair, but the watchwomen stood with her now, hands on stone, table, glass, and law. Everett remained behind them, where power belonged when it finally learned humility. Cecily let her eyes close for one safe breath. The panes stayed open. For the first time in 20 nights, the border did not borrow only her. And when Everett whispered her name, he did not make it a claim. He made it a vow to wait. Cecily opened her eyes to moonlit roads, living watchwomen, and a room that was hers before it was anyone's ceremony. Only then did she reach back and take his hand.